It did. Hello. Good evening and welcome to tonight's stream. Yes. Welcome to Fizzy Brain. I think I've got it working. We shall find out. Because that's just the way we do things. So, I got my script. First of all, before we start the program, apologies for last week. Take those off because I hate wearing them. Apologies for last week and my lack of appearance and a very last minute cancellation. It was because I was fucking knackered and had to basically pack for the festival that we'll be talking about in this week's show. So lots of stuff going on. So this means that this week there's going to be interesting stuff to talk about, which is nice. So yes, welcome to episode 25. Official 25, no, there's bootleg 25, so it's episode 25, Happy Hampshire Day, because today is the 15th of July, which is Hampshire Day, and hence the bloody great big flag behind me. I'm not normally a sort of a flag background kind of chap, but I thought, fuck it. Well, I was doing some social media earlier on. I would say that's why I have makeup on, which is the Hampshire flag, but I've been sweating so much that it's gone. So I did have Hampshire eyeliner on. Well, I say eyeliner, eyeshadow on, but that's gone now. So just imagine it. Imagine those colours on my eyes. Although I did, of course, do it background. I did backwards. I did the yellow at the top and the red at the bottom because I'm an idiot. So, for those of you who've joined us for the first time this week, my name is Aubrey Blakeledge. I'm a musician, storytelling, weird person, and this is Fizzy Brain, which is basically a weekly stream where I talk about my creative stuff. I don't mean my process, I mean how my brain works. So it's basically how I prepare for shows, how I get things ready, and also the silly things that I get distracted by. So it's basically two parts. Part one is what I'm meant to be working on to forward my career as a performer, as an entertainer. And then part two is what I've ended up being distracted by and doing. I used to say it was a bad thing, like I used to say the lengths I would go to avoid doing work. But the funny thing is a lot of the stuff I do in my weird distracted way end up being work anyway. So it's sort of, it all ends up being work. It's more like you're going to find out the extreme lengths that my brain will go to be occupied with things. So let us have a look at what we're going to be. Let's get the window up. So this week, as is with all weeks, first of all, I'm going to pour myself a lovely scotch. If you have a drink, do let me know what you're drinking. I am drinking some Shackleton whiskey, which is a very nice whiskey that I got a while ago. Good evening. And so I've got myself a lovely glass of this, which is actually rather smashing. I've been drinking this for a few weeks. It's very nice. I've gone into sort of, I think with if I drink gin, I drink it far too fast. If I drink cider, I drink it far too fast. But if I drink whiskey, I slow the fuck down. Not bourbon, though. I like bourbon's too easy for me to drink, so I do not slow down. If I drink a really quite strong whiskey, it will take me a while, and I'll be able to enjoy it. Not because I'm being classy, it's just because it burns my face, so I'll slow the fuck down. So at this part in the programme, I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing in the background. So you can see in the little window to the left-hand side of the screen is basically my little crafting window, because while I talk I like to fiddle with things, and this is a way for me to sort of engage my hands in other things. So I've got a couple of repair jobs to do, a couple of shirts, but I've also got a large selection of patches that I've been working on on the back of my, because I have a battle jacket that some of you have already seen, but this is my battle waistcoat, which is basically a tweed jacket with a load of my mates' bands on the back. So you can see all kinds of just bits. And yes, I did just stab myself. So yes, all kinds of different bits and pieces in there. So some of them, they're all been pinned on, so they're easy enough to straight by. These ones are done already. Down to here, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one need to be added. So there's that. But before I start on that, I've got a couple of repair jobs. So in the background, while we're chatting, I'm just going to fix the little hole that was in here, which won't take very long. And then I've got a waistcoat to fix as well as that waistcoat. So it's Westcote Central here this evening. Yes, so Happy Hampshire Day, celebrating with a Pinot Grigio Spritzer. Jolly good. And also, hope your trip home from Hardu was uneventful. It was well, Nikki's car broke down. That's one thing that happened. So, but amazingly, someone broke down, and it wasn't the car I was in, which is a first. So yes, but more about Hardu a little later in the program. So whilst we get underway and get ourselves comfortable, I hope you all have a nice drink, or you're doing a bit of crafting. Let me know what you're drinking, and also if you're doing a bit of crafting or drawing or whatever. Let me know what you're up to, so I know, and we can discuss accordingly. So, first of all, let's know. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I wondered if it was yourself. Thank you very much for the bottle of water. That was very, very much appreciated. Because as we all know, and we're all going to be talking about the fucking heat at the weekend. Good God. But we'll get that to in a moment. Good evening, Smoke and Door Hide. Right, so we've got our sewing ready. Let's do a bit of the housekeeping to get things going. So gigs coming up. We're looking at July and August. We are balls deep in festival season. So this week is a Sweet Chunks festival. So the Sweet Chunks band will be playing at HEFF Festival, which is a sort of sold out sort of home educated families festival. Lovely and weird. We'll talk about it a lot. It's quite good. Then basically we wait for a bit until we get balls deep into August. So the 9th of August I'm at Gig in a Field. 10th of August, I'm at COALVILLE at the Victoria's Bikers Pub with Joel Fox, which would be nice, whose name you might saw on the waistcoat. Then we've got the night before Beautiful Days, which is sold out, which I'm in a bit of a swap of the bother with, and I'll tell you about in a minute. Then, good news, my friends, 14th of August at Beautiful Days, I've blagged a ticket, which means I'm playing the Magic Teapot. Whee! Not Sweet Chunks, me. I'm still working on trying to get Sweet Chunks there, but I will definitely be at Beautiful Days with the lovely, good lady riding instructor, her indoors. I will be organising a set at the Magic Teapot. I'll have to organise that at the festival. So if you want to come along, check their boards. I will put up on social media on when I get there, when I work out when I'm playing. But I only find out on the day. That's the way it works. And of course, we've got the 23rd of August. It's the Hobbit, Awkward Strawberry, the rescheduled one, with STEVIE Simpson and Ruthy Connallain. I can never say Ruthy's last name. I'm terrible. I will get her to record it onto a phone so I can use it as a ringtone so I remember it. So, yes, tickets for Awkward Strawberry on ticketsource.co.uk/Awkward Strawberry. Go to AubreyBlakeledge.com to find all my bits and pieces. And, of course, every Tuesday from 9 p.m. it's Fizzy Brain Stream, this one. And I'm told that it is actually listened to on the podcast version. People do download it because I know that the mighty Dave Grant, the crafting wizard who's designed the Glitundabus and other such delightful things, is currently listening to an older episode. So maybe when he's doing some crafting, because he's crafting for Boomtown, he might come across this episode and then go, "Oh, I remember when I was doing that 6 months ago." But that's the wonder of podcasting. You can talk to people in the distant past or the future. Either way, it's all good fun. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. If there's an RSS feed, I could set up an RSS feed because that's just one of those weird things. Aha! DYW bot is a person. It's definitely a person. Brilliant. Good. It did seem suspiciously like a bot. I mean, it did have the name bot in it. I mean, I was then thinking, would a bot really be as thick enough to put bot in it? But they are pretty stupid, as we've been discovering. But anyway, yes, welcome all, you beautiful people. And welcome to the Fizzy Brain. So we've done all the bits and pieces. So let's talk about part one. I do need to sort of jingle out for this, don't I? Part one. What am I meant to be working on? What stuff have I been doing that is actually connected to my career as a performer, as a musician, as whatever the flying fuck I actually happen to be? So, I am doing my album. It has been going fantastically well. I had a marvellous time in Andover with Dan Hutchinson, who is acting as my vocal engineer. He was absolutely superb, a lovely fellow, and brilliant to work with, and exactly what I hoped would happen. So basically, for those of you who don't know, I decided when recording the album, as much as I'm doing a lot of it DIY, doing it myself in this very flat, in this very studio, that I wanted with the vocals, and this came from an idea from Mike Wiles, that I needed someone else to be the engineer, so I could just focus on the vocal performance. So the rest of it I can do drop in and drop out with the guitars, no problem at all. But when it came to my vocals, I needed an extra pair of hands, and preferably with someone that I could use their experience to just sort of give me some advice and some suggestions. Originally, that was going to be Mike, but Mike can't make it because basically, oh well, that's a pin dropped on the floor and possibly lost forever. That will be something, a callback to later on in the program as well, but more about that later. Now, Mike was going to join me in the studio and help me record the album. As well as being on the album, he was also going to work as my engineer, and the two of us were going to do it. But unfortunately, he couldn't commit to a steady amount of time to get the album done in time. So he basically said, look, rather than waiting for me, just do the album without me, sort of thing, and then crack on from there. And so, but he said, get another, work with someone in a studio to do the vocals, because then you can have, spend the money on that, focus on that, get a decent studio, get a decent recording, it sounds good, then the producer can fiddle with it. And originally, the plan B, so we've lost Hannah. Plan B was going to be Lou, who is the producer of the Woodland Gothic, the album, who recorded the Sweet Chunks Band album Glatundabus. She was the producer and the engineer, so I trust her. She's a great engineer, great producer, but she unfortunately cannot dedicate any more studio time because her studio time's booked up. She has plenty of time to work as a producer, but no time to work as an engineer. And also the studio she uses has been booked up with other engineers and other producers. So what do? I then speak to Dan Hutchinson, who I eventually used as a recommendation from Grant Sharkey, and he recommended Dan, and I'd actually worked with Dan, so we recorded. It sounded great. He was a brilliant person to work with, and we for some extra, did plenty of extra ideas. He came up with loads of suggestions. It went really well. It's a lot of fun, but also we got a lot of work done, and it sounds great and heavy and bigger and chunky, which is great. Also managed to record Grant Sharkey's guest vocals. I did scare the shit out of Grant. I'm not ignoring you, chat. I will be catching up with what's been said in the chat, but I'm trying to sort of finish this stream of consciousness before I catch up with what you guys have been saying. And so Grant came along, and he did a video, which you might have seen on Grant Sharkey's little on his socials, which is very true and very apt, which is that I asked him to play on the album, then I subsequently didn't tell him anything about what I was hoping he would do. The reason for that is that if I actually said to him, this is what I want to do, it would have probably come out as being rather offensive, due to the fact that I basically wanted him to make the sounds of a slightly rapey, eldritch horror folk creature. Which he did perfectly, and when he turned up, he sort of went, "Yeah, actually, no, fair enough. It probably would have sounded offensive, but that's what we're going for." So he came on, did the show, did the recording. It sounded absolutely amazing, and also got to bump into the marvelously talented Dave Allen. Now, Dave Allen is a long-term drummer friend of Grant Sharkey, but by the way, that means he's actually a long-term friend that's a drummer, not in the sort of historical sense when someone's a long-term friend and a drummer means they're not fucking at all. They're just long-term friends, and he plays drums for him. But also, you may, if you've ever heard Are You Worthy, the musical that I play on the recorded version, but not on the studio version, Dave Allen does the bucket hats from the live performance. So we've all worked together as well, and it was really nice to catch up with both Grant and Dave. So I'm hoping to snag Dave as possibly one of my choices for my touring band. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. So that's the recording section at the moment. We had a lot of fun making some weird noises. And today I did some extra bits of recording. Some of the backing vocals have finally been done as well, which is very cool. I'm creating a horde of witches, which will make sense once you hear the album, or if you've heard the demos, because you've been one of my glorious Patreon supporters. It's only £3 a month. And so you might know potentially the context of me needing a horde of witches. So yes, I've recorded 2 out of I think 6 potential witches. So we shall see. So that's going well. That was fun. I basically got to hang around with my mate Maz and made her say really stupid things whilst recording them. So yeah, that was smashing. Right, let's catch up with what you lovely people have been saying in the chat before I move on to the next part, because this is a nice conversation we're going to have. Right, so we're there. This is how far back I've gone. I've got, am I a person? That is a philosophical question that I do not have the brain power. I can barely work that out for myself. If there was an Aubrey branded gin, what would be the name and what would be the flavour? Balls. And balls. I don't know, actually, if I was to choose a flavour of gin for myself, it would definitely be a fruity flavour one, because I am very fruity. But also, it's my preferred thing. I do like a good dry gin, but if it was mine, it would probably be like a nice rhubarb and ginger. But like really gingery, like not just a case of, oh, that's quite a nice ginger flavour you've got there, or a little bit of tang. I would actually want to have full fiery fucking ginger. So it would be rhubarb and ginger, and it would be basically like a nod to my weird coloration as well, being the massive ginger that I am. So, or as my friend once called me, a day walker, because I am half ginger, half brown haired. Someone once asked, do I dye my hair? So I said, what do you mean? Well, because it's brown at some points in your hair, and then orange in others, and ginger in other. So let me get this straight. You think I would dye my hair either ginger or shit brown, which is what this is, and then you think either I'd run out of money, time, or effort and just stop halfway through. No, I don't dye my hair. This is my natural hair colour. It's fucking stupid, but that's the hair colour I've got. Okay, right, that's that seam done. Repair job 1, done. Time for repair job 2. Yes, I don't actually know. It'd be some kind of ginger. Maybe I'll call it Daywalker. That might quite well. A reference to something. I let Joe Fox have made him panic a little bit because I was the first person to get him to sign anything. I freaked him out at Hardu Festival. Talk more about it in a minute. Because if you look at the back of this battle waistcoat, you'll see Joel Fox's logo there. That isn't a patch. That's from a beanie of his that I bought, and then cut the badge out. So not only have I got a really nice chunky badge, I also have an emergency gnome disguise kit. So if I put it on and pull the flaps down, I look like a gnome, which is great. So, if you're thinking about getting merch, buy a beanie hat, get yourself a nice little sort of gnome hat and a patch. There we go. Fabulous. It was indeed with Jay Markin and B-Sides. That was an evening that I wish I could have gone to. I love Jake and B-Sides and Gaz combos. They're always good. A bit of George Gad as well. Flavour-wise, apple and brambles as clout and pretty nature. That's a good point. Hats off. Gnome hat. I have to find the... where the fuck is it? That's a good question. Where is the gnome hat? I can't remember where I put it, if I'm honest. I'll tell you what, I'll put another hat on for the moment while I think about where that fucking hat is. Because it should be somewhere in here. Don't want to spend too long searching for a hat in a live stream when I've got plenty of work to do, because I'm an idiot. But anyway, there we go. Let's get the Make Britain woke again. Right, so, yes. There we go. So I've caught up. Okay, right. So back to this. Now we repair it. Now I'm going to be repairing this lovely shiny waistcoat. The Type 2. I loved it so much. It came out as apparently a size 16. Was it bollocks? So I added that entire extension panel on the back to make it fit. And that just means constant maintenance, because I'm still getting used to using it, and I used the sewing machine badly. And it's like, when you look back when you first use something, you thought at first I did a really good job, and then you go back and you realise, oh, that's a fucking terrible job. So yes, that means I'm going to probably be repairing this for the rest of my fucking life. But I like doing repairs anyway. Right. Anyway, so we have talked about the album and the vocals. Now we talk about the tour, yeah. So not much changing from the last time we spoke about what we were getting booked in and such, but people seem to be quite in. I've had people coming up to me and being quite interested in the tour. So I think people are beginning to realise that I'm doing a sort of sweet chunksy Sweet Chunks band and also my solo stuff kind of tour now that the band is calling it a day. So more people have been interested, which is, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because people are sort of like staying away because they thought, oh no, he's doing a solo album, it's going to be fucking awful. But you know what? Fair play. The frog has arrived. Welcome to the chat. Now, you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Yeah, so the tour's looking good. Lots of interest have been piqued by people going, oh, you're going to keep going. I thought you were dead. No, I'm playing my own solo stuff. So part of that, one of the things I wanted to do was sort out a merch idea that I was planning to steal off of Andrew O'Neill, where they've got loads and loads of stickers advertised with their logos and bits and pieces. But on the back of the sticker is their contact details. So, all the Facebook and such. And I remember, because my name is so stupid and no one can ever spell it, I know that the amount of people that have been really interested to check me out a bit more, that when they say, what's your name? Where can I find your stuff? I go, Aubrey Blakeledge. They go, what? Sweet Chunks is easy enough to remember. And that took a bit of a while. But then again, I can remind people by saying it's the thing after throwing up in a bush. So it's sort of a memorable thing about the fuck's sake, my brain's gone down. The memorable thing to remind people how to contact me and such. But Aubrey Blakeledge doesn't really have that. Again, why I'm considering changing my stage name to Aubrey Nutter, but I'm still not 100% convinced. Because maybe I just stick with my weird name. I just make people remember it in infamy. But, I'm an indecisive person. There's loads of things to worry about before I get to that point. Yeah, so it's looking promising, and I've got some shows potentially booked in for Newcastle, which is good. I'm looking at doing that. I think I mentioned that last time. Apologies for repeating myself. That's just what happens when you talk to me. Anyway, never mind. But this is the right place to be if your brain is extra fizzy. I came up with this interesting idea for a sort of mythological idea, because I heard this. My name, like my grandmother's maiden name, so Aubrey Nutter. If I went by Aubrey Nutters, which would literally mean by its old meaning is, well, Aubrey is actually Lord of the Insane. Is one of them. So actually, if I change my name to Aubrey Nutter, it would be Lord of the Insane. So double insane, multi-insanity. But anyway, I thought of this nice little thing to do with that idea, because most of you probably know that to supplement my eccentric gigging habit, I have a part-time job in a care home where I'm an activities coordinator working with pensioners, not as in palliative care as in hospices, but I'm basically with people who are this is the last home they'll ever live in, sort of thing. And that could be 5 years, that could be 6 months, that could be all these different things. Anyway, so I'm sort of getting used to my patients dropping dead all the time. But one of the things I realised is that there's a thing with certain delusions and dementias, because there's so many different variants of the same thing, that one of the things I like about this idea of the Fey world is the Fey world is meant to be an insane place that makes no sense. Insane squared, yeah. Insane in the N squared. But is that the Fey world is insane, but it makes sense within itself. Because one of the things that's the most horrible about dementia is when the delusions, the instability, the mood swings, all those things are distressing to that person. I know plenty of people who have dementia where they're actually happy, mainly because they don't know they've got dementia. But it's that sort of thing of like, they're not afflicted by the downside of it because it doesn't make them, they don't realise the horrors of it. And there's some people who can have very like sort of positive, happy, easily amused, like childlike demeanor, and still communicate with their friends and family. And then that mood can switch when something almost random, something that's triggered them that we don't understand, that in their weird little world has upset them. Anyway, this idea of like the fey people and the insane is that they'd be good at looking after insane asylums, not because they could cure insanity. It's just they make it less scary because they live in an insane world, but it is a manageable insane world. So the idea that all the lots of care homes around the world are owned by fey people, basically just sort of look after old dears who've been nice to them over the years. You're completely batshit mental. Doesn't matter. How do you cure it? No, not really. We just make people not worry about it. Because it's one of those things of when you look at a lot of medical conditions, everything from ADHD to autism to various other things, a lot of the time it's not about curing it, it's about that condition not being in the way. Because ADHD can be really, really hilarious to the person with it, but it can also be really fucking horrible. And I think it's one of those things of like, I'd like to, like, I mean, here's a display. I'm sitting here talking to you and sewing stuff and actually having a really nice time doing it. This is great. This is the great side of ADHD. But I don't like those times where I'm wandering around my flat searching for my house keys, which I've put in my pocket and I've forgotten they're in my pocket. So I'm just walking around the house on a constant loop, hoping that something will pop out when looking at every surface about 3 times, even though I've checked everywhere, going madder and madder and madder and getting more and more distressed. I'd rather not have that side of it, if you know what I mean, and just basically just have the nicer side of it. I'm not one of those people that thinks things like ADHD or autism are a superpower. Definitely don't think they're, worth pitying people about, but it's... I would be a pretty shit superhero if I was going to solve crime by knitting and talking bollocks for 6 hours a day and then losing my house keys. Or losing my my sunglasses and then discovering that they were literally just sat on my head the entire time. Anyway, tangent. What are we catching up with? Liking the names, I suppose. It makes me think of shit. Really? Well, why am I mumbling? I might as well read it out. With the chaos in the world, who can really say if those who have lost the path we call sanity haven't just found a path somewhere else more interesting? Well, I literally have worked with people where I wouldn't, I would say that is the case. Their lives are happier. Their lives are just... I remember this one woman who didn't seem to have any negative effects, apart from a death. Obviously, let's not forget, dementia is a fatal condition. Your body just basically eventually gives up because it doesn't know how to work itself anymore. I'm not saying let's all get dementia, isn't it fun? What I'm saying is that there was this woman who was literally on a different plane of existence, and everything was funny as fuck. She would just be jolly in the corner laughing. She could make a room that was really upset turn itself upside down and be happy again just by laughing at the fact the newspaper had been put on her table. She was like she was on fucking like some very laughy mushrooms at all times. I mean, she was on high levels of medication, but I don't think the medication were designed to do that. Visited a new potential respite and rehab centre today and said that, we've got a few activities coordinators and I thought of you alongside physio. Well, actually, that's not far off what I do in my current job, actually. I work alongside very professional people dressed like this. Obviously not with the hat and not with the makeup. They don't really want the makeup. Understandable, because it's not in a kind of, we don't trust that kind of thing here. It's more a case of, clinical. The amount of times I've accidentally turned to work wearing massive hoop earrings and then forgetting it's like, I am in a clinical environment. I should not be wearing these. And then remember, once I did it, the same thing with nail varnish. Fucking hell, that was stupid. Yeah, what you wearing it with? So that was a half sentence that didn't go anywhere. What I was going to say is, well, some people might say, yeah, but you're not working with the clients first one-to-one. It's like, well, I am, and I may not be causing any clinical issues, but I am a member of staff, and it's a perfectly sensible precaution, just in case. They are very vulnerable adults. very easy for them to get ill. Bless their little hearts. Well, because the hearts are things that seem to keep breaking at the moment. I mean, physically, not philosophically. But yes, okay. Tour. Right, onto the gigs and such. So this week, I have been gigging at 2000 Trees, and I have been comparing at Hadu Festival. For those of you who are counting, that's 2 of the 3 Northern Greetings festivals. As far as I'm aware, the only person that is doing all 3 of them, I believe, is Brian Stone. No, wait, no, Brian Stone wasn't at Hadu. Who was it? Who is doing it? Bands, I'm not sure, but I know there's a couple of punters that are doing all of them. Oh, Jamie Westwood is doing all of the Northern Greetings. One of them he found out he was going to without actually booking any tickets and was just basically told you're going to this, which is always a fun way of realising you're going to a festival. So yes, there's Hadu, Aop, or Aop Madoc, and Nah Then. So all run by different people. And yeah, it just seems to be that's the thing. Just have, if you want to have a music festival, have it named after a Northern expression. I wanted the idea of setting up a Scottish festival called the Scottish Festival. We don't say its name. But sorry, weird Shakespeare reference. But creating a festival just called Gettifer, because I think, or Gettifer. I think it would be a great name. Gettyfu. Gettifer. Or his full name, Gettifer Bassa. Because I'm a massive child who grew up watching Billy Connolly programs. But yeah, but first of all, went to 2000 Trees. I love 2000 Trees. And we set up there with good lady riding instructor, her indoors, a load of my friends were there. Quite a few people on the chat were actually there as well. Got to throw the salt. Oh yeah, if you can't, if they say Gettifer Bassa, yeah, I've got to throw some scotch over your shoulder. I won't, because this is good shit. But yeah, so we went down to 2000 Trees, had a smashing time. I went to see Kneecap, so at least I could complain. If I was going to complain about Kneecap, I could at least say I actually watched them and gave them a jolly good chance, because I've said many times before, I do like their music. It's just they're fucking idiots. But watched them live. They were superb. They were one of my favourite bands of the weekend. Absolutely smashing. If you listen to the tracks and you like the tracks, I do recommend seeing them live, because their live show is 1,000 times even better than that. And I think their songs are good fun as well. One of my favourite moments, and I told this to a few people, it made me and a friend of mine who's an ex-squaddy laugh our arses off, is the fact that they managed to get a festival field filled with middle-class English people to yell you Feniton cunts as a chant, which was just really, really funny to me. And it's sort of like, and they were clearly having a right old ball laugh about that as well. That's probably half the joke. Let's say we can get these English fellas to yell, because half the crowd were just going, I don't know what that means, I'm going to sing along. And then the other half was, I don't know what that means, I better not say anything, because this is probably suspect. But for those of you who don't know, Feniton cunt, or Feniton is, or Finian, depending on pronunciation, is an old slagging off name for sort of Catholic Irish people, not just in the north, but just anyway. So Finians and such like that. So yeah, I imagine that those boys from Belfast hadn't heard that many English people saying "you Feniton cunts" since the 1980s. Well, actually the 1990s, because they're all weird babbies. But yeah, seriously though, their stage show, absolutely smashing. It's one of those things like with the Bob Villain thing, and also with Mo Farah. Not Mo Farah, very different person, an athlete, not an Irish political rapper. But you know, the reasons they're in court is their own stupid fault, quite frankly. And I'm not going to support people saying stuff which I quite frankly think people need to be held to account for those things. We've been saying for ages that, you know, People need to be held account for their words. And I don't mean we hold people account to the words, but only the ones we don't like. The ones we like, they can say what they like, even if it means stupid things. But I will say I am on the side of Palestinian action. I mean, those guys have been treated like fucking shit. And I realise, actually, that what I've just done there is saying that on this stream is actually a crime. Because despite the fact they committed no acts of terrorism, they didn't hurt any human beings, they never had any intention of hurting any human beings, they didn't do anything that would have caused deaths or injuries of human beings, and actually just caused breaking and entering. Yes, that's a crime. They committed that. Trespass, that's a crime. They committed that. Criminal damage, yes, they committed that. So to be charged for that, absolutely fine. Terrorism, it's a fucking abuse of power to call them terrorists, and especially when you've got a human rights lawyer that protected people for the exact same thing, saying they're terrorists and branding them terrorists. And it means that even to say that we support them is now actually a crime in itself. So, but fuck it, if someone's going to put me in prison for that, that is a political action I'm quite prepared to do now, I think. Put me in prison for saying that, oh yeah, the guys that were accused of terrorism aren't actually fucking terrorists. But anyway, music, fucking great. I didn't see Hyphen. I heard good things about Hyphen. I wanted to see Hyphen, but something else was going at the same time. I really miffed that I missed what is it, Snake Gods or something like that. I was watching the second Kid Capici set, who I thought were all right, but there's a band that I've realised now I would actually fucking love, but missed it because I'm a fool. Anyway, yeah, so the music, absolutely fantastic. Battlesnake, those are the fuckers. Yeah, sorry, I'm away from the microphone. Battlesnake, they were great. Love them a lot. Not familiar with underscore. Oh, very good. Just realised the joke. I am slow, but you are clearly much faster than me. Comma, great band. But one of the funny things is while I was at Trees, the music is fucking great, and I love that music more than any other festival I go to, including things like Beautiful Days, which is a festival I adore. But one of the things that always makes me laugh is how shit the stagecraft is. Because you can literally, like, they all do exactly the same thing. And I don't mean, oh, you know, there's only so many, you know, I thought people got a bit boring on stage in the folk circuit, but it's not. They have character. I think every folk band has character. Metal bands do not. They have the same 6 or 7 phrases that get rolled out like a fucking action figure. Apart from Kneecap, they were smashing. And also apparently Battlesnake were the same. But basically you can... I want to... Next time I go to Trees, I am going to play Frontman Bingo. So, you know, starting it... Let's do the easy one. Starting a song by saying, let's do this, let's go. The bit where they say how honoured and emotional they are, honoured and humbled to be at 2,000 trees, whilst like sort of prancing up and down the stage, or prowling up and down the stage. That's the word I'm saying. If they're prancing, that'd be entertaining. I want to see that pit open it up, open it the fuck up. Let's see a circle pit right now. Also, a band saying they're from any part of the UK, and yet for some reason when they sing, they sound like a cross between they're from like somewhere in America that is nondescript, or somewhere in like off. It end up sounding like they're from the middle of the Atlantic. Now the thing is, the Free Palestine thing and fuck Keir Starmer and Free Palestine. It's one of those things that, like, you know what, I can get that. That's absolutely fine. It's been said a lot, but it's one of those things that it's a current thing. It can get tiresome. But what I'm talking about is just like the lack of imagination when people say the same stuff. Like, you know, there's so much love and love you here. What do you do? How you doing? 2,000 trees, and like it's just, it's an odd one, right? Okay, that is repair job number 2 done. Yay! So. I'm going to have to sit and think this out. If you guys want to start creating it in your own at the moment, Because I know there are a lot of metal fans on the stream. In fact, I think everyone watching it has at least some affection for the metal genre. Think about all those frontmen and women that you know, and then create like a sort of a phrase book for a band pretending to or being an alternative metal band or whatever. And I've counted them. There's 2,000 trees. So many trees. So many lovely trees. Yeah, that was the other one. Hello, 2,000 trees. I hope you're all doing okay. Yeah, that's the other one. And it's one of the things is that I know they're all sincere because you can see it on their faces, and it's basically because that's what happens when you have an entire music festival run by people with severe social anxiety that like to scream about how angry they are at their dad. But because, you know, that's fair enough, that's where that music comes from. But it's so funny at how socially awkward absolutely everyone is, apart from Kneecap. But yeah, it's a great place. So I think I'm going to create for next year, as well as all the random stuff that I've got already, I'm going to create a little bingo card. That's the word. I ran out of wings. Okie. Oh, I hope you're doing okie. Yeah, no, that works. It does work, mate. It wasn't a terrible pun. It was just... It's one of those ones that works better on the page. I mean, I was reading it, so that kind of works when I say it out loud. Oh, someone's going to the... Fuck off. Smoke, like, really? You're going to your first festival? That's actually... I find that quite surprising. What festival are you going to, by the way? Brutal Assault. I've heard about that one. That's meant to be pretty good. It's quite a smallish one, isn't it? It's about the size of... Is that the one that's about the size of Bloodstock, or is it one of the fucking great big ones? Because I know Europe's got some fucking huge, like, metal festivals. Leaf to tree puns. Anyway, so 2,000 trees. Music was absolutely great. Got a few patches, had some good times. Really nice catching up with a load of people. The set went really, really well. Bumped into a few friends, which was nice. Talked absolute shit. Slagged off George Gadd several times. I mean, considering he was the man that booked me, probably should stop doing that. He said he liked it, but you know, he's English, so he's clearly just going to basically say, yeah, it's fine, and then plan my death behind my back, because that's what I would do. So yeah, the sets went really, really well, but I think a lot of people were hit by that heat. It was just brutal. Luckily, shout out to Rick, who won't be watching this, but is brought along a gazebo, a fucking huge gazebo. Oh, you prick. Sing mode. Download. I'm going to do this last bit without singing, and then I'll be singing it. Doing to download, planning booking a second for next year. Are you going to go for another metal one, or are you going to go for a different kind of one? But I'm considering, if download doesn't suck... Well, actually, I've already bought tickets for Trees next year. Right, anyway, singing. I've been told to sing. So I've already bought tickets for Trees next year, because they do a real good payment plan. And I got 30% off while I did it, and it only cost me £20 a month. Automod apparently has held a message for misogynists. You slag. Slag on him. Good point. I'm going to allow it. If you need to stop slagging him off, could you slag him on instead? I mean, to slag a man on would probably mean to get a pile of slag and dump it on his fucking head, and then he wouldn't be glad. I don't have to make it rhyme. It says nothing about rhyming. Nothing about rhyming. Slagging needs approval. Yes, slagging needs approval because it's a kind of misogyny, because you use the word slag individually. Slagging is not, but slag is misogynist because it used to mean slag, you horrible old slag, that kind of thing. But it's very old, and to be honest, I don't think I've ever heard anyone using it to actually demean a woman, mostly guys, in that sort of ironic homosexual kind of way that straight guys, or allegedly straight guys, use all the time when they talk with their mates. That sounds rather homoerotic, making me think they're probably a little bit gay. But that's just me. Anyway, so while I was at 2000 Trees, the music was really good, really fun. We're hanging out with my friends and getting really drunk. I drank nearly a litre of gin with my wife in company. Had 3,000 passion bombs and nearly threw up behind a tree. That's not true, it just rhymes, so it sounds good, that's why I said it. I managed to stay quite hydrated, unlike a certain amount of people, and lots of people ended up passing out. But it didn't seem so bad. Oh, that seems to be stuck. There we go, that's better. And I managed to do the entire weekend without wearing sunscreen because I fucking hate it so much. Its texture on my skin makes me scream. So also when I wear sunscreen I get really complacent. So I slap it on and stand in the rain and I get really burnt. So if I'm not wearing sunscreen I'm overcautious. I hide in the trees and bushes and douse myself with mush. So I end up staying less burned than anyone else, though I've got a nice tan on my back and a slightly red nose. I don't know how long I've got to keep doing that for. I'm going to stop. So, yeah, so basically I have this tactic where, because I fucking hate wearing sunscreen. It's, anyway, if I wear sunscreen, I basically then believe that I'm some kind of immortal god and then will just sit in the sun for the rest of time. And then I get more burnt wearing sunscreen as well. So if I don't wear sunscreen, I am very much aware whenever I'm in the sun. So I basically hide away out the way and cover my shoulders. I hide in the shade. I do all these kind of things. I end up actually doing all right. I said I got a little bit burnt. I got a bit red and a nice tan because normally I burn like a motherfucker and it's really painful. It wasn't really painful for too long. It got sort of like a little bit, you know when paint's tacky? It was like that, but for skin. Not when my skin was tacky. It was just a little bit of dodgy pain when I poked it. You know what I mean? But yeah. But it was actually all right. And the same with Hardu. The Hardu was an interesting one because when I went, so I stayed from Wednesday, Thursday at Trees, had a smashing time. Didn't want to leave, obviously, and my friends were quite clear that they didn't want me to leave anyway, which is also a very nice experience to have. But then had to head off to the gig because I have to go where I work now. And so cycled from 2000 Trees to Cheltenham Spa, which is a 45-minute cycle ride on the Argo, which is my folding bike, which was loaded up to hell and back. And because I ran out of room, I had my little party foxtail, and because I didn't have any room in any of the bags, Kaz suggested I just wear it because it would look funny as fuck, me cycling around with all of my stuff on these tiny little wheels with a little foxtail blowing in the wind. So I did, and it was funny. But yeah, it was actually an absolutely lovely cycle ride. It wasn't too mad, mostly downhill from the Trees end, which was good. Was able to actually enjoy myself, enjoy the ride. Thought you were tanned, but it was dust. Yeah, there was a lot of dust, wasn't there? But yeah, it was a really lovely ride. Although when I arrived at Nottingham station for the changeover, I got into the train where the engine was running and the aircon was on. And then when I sat down, got myself ready for my wait for a 2-hour train journey, they turned the engine off, and then naturally the air conditioning went off. So I was just sat in a large, really hot cigar, slowly melting, which was nice. Fucking Great Eastern Railways. Bastards, all of them. But yeah, so there was that. But in the end, we got underway. It was really quite nice. All the way up to Newstead, and handily, the train station is literally round the corner from where the venue was. So again, I had my bike with me, so I met up with a friend of mine, James, who's helping me run the There for the Music and the festival in September. Tickets are still available if you just search for There for the Music. And yeah, so he was there. He'd actually gone through the underground with his kit. He'd been on the train, and I could not imagine going on the underground in that fucking weather. So I decided that with my fully air conditioned train, you know what, maybe life wasn't so bad after all. But then we set up our tents, and it was fucking offensively hot, as you all know. And then we found that as the temperature got higher and higher and higher, that it was going to be 32 degrees where we were in Newstead, but 34, I think it was. There was at least 2 degrees significantly higher in at 2,000 trees, which just sounded horrific. And no, I wanted to check in and see how everyone's doing at trees, but there's only like one spot where there's any signal at all, and they give out free Wi-Fi because I think they realise that it is that shit. They give out free Wi-Fi to check out your stuff, and you don't really have to sign into it. It's all like, it's not like the Southwest Trains Wi-Fi where you have to hand over your passcode to your fucking family safe. It was literally like, you know, we know how shit this is. You need to keep in contact with people. So if anything ever went wrong, it was like getting a dispatch from the Telegraph in the 1920s. Oh, thank you very much. There we go. There's the tickets. Link for the there for the music if you want to come and see us. See the last ever Sweet Chunks gig at the Hobbit, as well with a lot of other bands as well, on the 27th of September. The link is in the chat. So yeah, I didn't get many reports, and then found out how knackered everyone was getting, and basically people were just not having the best of times. They managed to enjoy the Friday, sorry, and then on the Saturday it seemed like everyone went home. And then I found out that that Ash, who before I left had been quite, I thought he had heat stroke because he was bright red, but then I noticed he was bright red in his skin on the top of his head. And he was wearing a hat the entire time, and not a flimsy one. He actually was wearing a really decent hat that should have protected him. So it's like, okay, that's really weird. And then he started experiencing being cold and hot and cold and hot. And I again thought that sounded like heat exhaustion rather than sunburn or anything like that. Turns out he had been bitten by by some kind of tiny bastard creature, and it had gotten infected, so he had to go to the hospital. But by the time he got to the hospital, the A&E department had shut for the night, so they had to go back to the festival, and then head home. And then the next day, on the Saturday, had to travel home, and everyone basically went home. He luckily managed to get to a hospital in the end, and he got seen within an hour and given antibiotics, and he's now in recovery, which is nice. But yeah, it seems like their entire weekend fell to shit when I left, which is most satisfying. But yeah, so I got to, while all that disaster was happening, got to had a smashing time. Sort of this strange little party festival thing that the only reason it didn't burst into flames and fall apart is because all the people who were attending were festival veterans, so they're able to make it work. The tiny creature, a tiny ash bit Ash. Oh, there are the random letters. Mike Harding. God, I haven't heard his songs for a long time. Northern comedian. A friend of mine, Scott, absolutely adores him. I think he's gone to recording some of his albums. Of course, it was one of the things, oh, well, Mark Harding. And I'm like, yes. I now know him rather well. Well, I don't know him well like a friend or anything, but I know of his music rather well. But at the time when I was told, oh, yeah, he's working on my album, I was like, yeah, jolly good. That's awesome news. I know who that person was. Yeah, so Ash was bit by a tiny creature, and then it got infected, which was nice. And so but in the end, I think in the end, pretty much everyone went home. 'Cause, apart from Maz, who basically stayed and was one of the last people to leave the site. I think she just decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm staying. Considering she's in her 80s, that's impressive. Because she is hardcore. And I know, because I've done mushrooms with that woman and listened to The Prodigy. Which her children just do not like, the fact that I've done that. So, you can't do that, it's my mum. So that's my mate, shut the fuck up. We're going to go do drugs. I mean, don't do drugs. That's good, isn't it? In this live stream, I try not to be sort of, controversial or anything like that. And on this live stream I've basically celebrated a banned terrorist group and also advocated the use of drugs. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Yeah, Maz did win trees, and her prize was more trees. So, all in all, it's been an absolutely smashing weekend of gigs and music and all such things. So, those are the things that are connected to what I'm doing. It is time to go on to part 2 of the stream, which is, like I said before, the things that I've done with as much intensity as the musical career stuff that don't really straight away seem to be career related, but are just as important in their own way. So as always, we start off with the British Royal Book Club, and this week I have moved on to a marvellous... yes, this is the Insane Squared we were talking about. So I have been reading The Best of Arthur C. Clarke, a small anthology of short stories from 1936 to 1963. I found it in one of those marvellous little I call them community libraries. They've probably got a better name for it. You know, when someone like takes over a post box or whatever, and then turns it into a little free little bookshelf, a free bookshelf. Yeah, because we charge for our bookshelves. But a little, library. You know, brings some books and swaps some books and such like that. So I did. And got that one, rather nice. I've been rather enjoying it. Turns out Arthur C. Clarke, actually a pretty good writer. Who'd have thought? It's like me discovering Simon King, very different person. Stephen King. Try to think the best way of actually laying this fucking thing down so I can sew it without. Fuck it, I'll do it on my lap. So yeah, reading through those anthologies, which is really, really nice. I've decided to start because at the moment, and a lot of the time, I'm doing listening to an audiobook or podcast whilst reading as well. Well, not at the same time, like I'm not reading and doing podcasts. I'm not one of those weird people that does it. I mean, you know, sometimes well, that's an old callback. So what was I saying? So a lot of the time I'll be sometimes listening to podcasts or having a primary podcast as well as my normal ones, or a book, an audiobook, as well as the times that I'm reading, working my way through a book as well. Because sometimes, you know, I like to listen to people read to me. And so this week's Aubrey's Audiobook Club, I've got the marvellous Ramble book by Adam Buxton, which I thoroughly enjoyed. In fact, he's written, I think, the most interesting way of delivering an audiobook I've ever experienced. And I've read, you know what I mean, listened to a shitload of audiobooks, where he basically created a jingle for each chapter. And each of the jingles sounds completely different. It's wonderfully mental. And also he does side notes, like annotations in Pratchett books, but it's just Adam Buxton adding extra context to his thing. So what he does is if you've ever listened to his podcast, which I've started listening to now because it's actually really good fun. He is a good interviewer. Who'd have thought that's why he's an award-winning podcaster? But there's these things where the introduction to his podcasts are done when he goes out and walks his dog every morning, and he's incorporated that into his book, where basically the annotations are done while he's walking his dog. So you get these extra bits of context and such. But you can clearly hear him just outside, just going like with his dog Rosie and such, which is a really nice touch that I quite like. So I wish more audiobooks were read by him. Good to know the cat's calmed down. You don't want a random typing cat. No one likes that. When I said typing cat, did anyone else think of that gif of the cat bashing the keyboards with its paws? If not, why not? Go and search for it. You've got a couple of seconds. Treat yourself to a cat gif of a black and white cat beating the shit out of a keyboard and it looking like it's typing. It's the content that's what you want the internet for. It's great shit. Now, also, actually, that was an audiobook. As I finished that, I started listening to a series from some radio show makers that I really like called 13 Minutes to the Moon, which is absolute genius. I love 13 Minutes to the Moon. Series 1 and Series 2, even though Series 2 went on some weird tangents because of lockdown, so they basically just started halfway through like the series going, well, we haven't made the whole series, so what we're going to do is here's just some random interviews of people that have no context or anything going on. Just please don't stop listening to this program. But it was a great program. But they've just done a series about the space shuttle and how it was developed and how it was tested and all the different crews and such. And it's one of those interesting things because I'm a bit of an Apollo nerd, like most fans of space are. It's the sort of gateway drug to enjoying space is Apollo. So I didn't really know that much about the space shuttle, and it was really interesting hearing about it, which is quite nice. The follow-up to the Ramble book just out called I Love You Bye. Yeah, I am getting that as soon as I get the credits on my Spotify to give it a listen. Because I do like old Adam Buxton's books. Hopefully he does it in a very similar way. Or tries it in a different way. I don't know. Maybe he'll do it on the loo. I don't know. He's an insane person. And yes, it would be better than a cat to the face. I hope you've all searched for that gif of the cat but the cat hitting the keyboard. It will improve your life. Go forth and do it. The other main thing that I've been working on, and because it is one of those kind of things. Oh yes, it is 10 o'clock. Have a good night. Catch up the podcast later. Thank you for joining us. It will be available on YouTube, as always. A little bit later, probably tomorrow morning, when I've actually sorted myself out. So the other main thing I end up working on has been bike repairs. So the Argo, I managed to get working again because I had to. You guys all saw in one of the previous episodes, see previous issues, when I respoked or respicked. I don't know what we would call it. Respoked. Added more spokes. Fixed the wheel basically of the front wheel of the Argo. And I've had to sort out the front brakes because, to quote Ash, they weren't really brakes or they weren't really slowing things down. They were more like advisory notices for potentially slowing down. So that's been repaired. But Gertrude Robinson needs much more significant repairs. I managed to get to the point where I can actually ride it again because basically the crank chain rings need replacing. The inner one does, because luckily there's two. So I've taken it to a bike shop to find out what repairs, and Halfords have said, and Treads, where I got it from, have said, we don't sell those, no one sells those, they're a really odd shape that no one else uses. And I'm like, oh, brilliant, love that. So yes, I've of course got a bike that is really cool, but of course you can't get the parts for it anymore. So the best they could do is say, oh, here's a Halfords crankset we use, which is kind of similar, and my colleagues think it's going to fit, and it's like, that's really reassuring when I'm spending this amount of money on a fucking crankset, you bastards. But that is the life I have chosen as an owner of a bike that uses it regularly. I listened to Dave and Me, the book by the widow of one of the hairy bikers who passed away called Dave. Yeah, that was really... Because they actually had a ride out for that recently. I thought he died fucking years ago, but apparently, people are still sad, and fair play. Because for all intents and purposes, he seemed to be a fucking lovely guy. Which is kind of rare for TV personalities at the moment, especially TV chefs, if you follow what's going on with MasterChef, where it seems like both of them are a pair of cunts. Not the hairy bikers, the guys from MasterChef. And that's according to the press and also the courts. So that's not libelous. Unless I, of course, say it wrong deliberately and misconstrue evidence, then it would be libelous. But if I'm just passing on what has actually been discussed in court, unless, of course, that is then proved to be false, which it hasn't been because the process is too early on for that. So if he wants to do that, he'd have to go through litigation with the court to appeal that decision about being, you know, a racist, and the other one being a rapist. I like the way that it's not a rapist, beg your pardon, sorry, just a sex pest. Because that would be libelous if I accuse him of something he hasn't done yet. But I haven't mentioned anyone's names, so it's basically, if someone gets angry about it, it's because they feel guilty about their horrible, disgusting behaviour. Oh, dear me. Where was I? It's only a year? It's only a year? Fucking hell, I thought he actually died like 5 years ago. That's really sad. Or is it one of those things that both of them are now dead? Have I just missed the fact that they're both dead? Because that would just be horrific. They were actually really quite nice, and they made really good food. That's the important, you know, not the important thing. That's a really cloudless way. So there's, you know, as much as they were sort of like great presenters and such, they actually made really fucking tasty food. And yes, it was meaty as fuck. I completely appreciate that. But those of you who do know me, I just love talking about food of all kinds, particularly the tasty stuff. Because food is fucking great. Oh. Do you have any books about wild foraging? No, actually. I did have a friend of mine when I worked at QE2, the Outdoor Activity Centre, specialising in people who learn difficulties and physical issues over in the River Hamble. We had a couple of people there who knew about wild foraging, because obviously that was part of the things they would teach, and we had a lot of outdoorsy types. And so I learnt practical stuff, but I don't have any books. Kind of want to, though, because it would be a really useful thing to sort of know a bit about, you know? And then go find some weird stuff. Because I remember one day I went out, this would be when I was like a little babby, we went out to the New Forest and collected in shitloads of mushrooms. But then we realised we didn't know which were good or bad, so we just collected a fuck ton of mushrooms and then went home and then found a book that identified what mushrooms were edible. And we basically got about several kilograms of, not poisonous, but they would give you the shits. So you wouldn't, well, that is still poisonous. You wouldn't die, but you would definitely have some brown trousers. And also a load of chicken of the forest, which is edible. It's easy to remember because it looks like a chicken fillet. An uncooked chicken fillet on the floor. I'd like to give it a go, end up on the news making a mushroom soup and end up being very high in a kite lunging at the Pope. Or very, very not well. Yeah, but you know, you only live once. Let's lunge wildly at the Pope. Just as Bill Bailey always wanted to. I kind of get the feeling with Bill Bailey now, with his sensible haircut and doing programmes about mental health, his Pope lunging days are behind him. You just have to lunge at Trump instead. What a cunt. And I always end up thinking, when I think about Trump, perhaps he'll die. Not wishing for his death. I'm not wishing for someone out there to go out and murder him. I don't like the idea of murder him. Maybe just nice. Just one day he just didn't wake up. I don't mean that in a kind of euphemism. I mean just perhaps he'll die. I think the world would be much better because then J.D. Vance, that little whiny bitch, will be president. Oh, good God. He was a whiny little cunt when he was the vice president. Imagine what that little bitch is going to be like when he's president. Perhaps he'll die. But c'est la vie. Huh. Well, I might have misread something on that little quote there, but just reminded me. So I showed you guys the the ring that Dave Grant made me, which I keep an emergency antihistamine in, I sort of expanded that, and I now have this little fellow, which is a little tiny. I'm sure you can see that very well. Maybe see better in here. There we are. I think you can see. I might need to actually, let's change the camera view. There we go. Right. That little fellow here. Right. Little brasso fellow here. Filled with all kinds of bits and pieces. In case of emergency, I can open him up. Inside I have a tiny plastic seal, the seal of approval, and an antihistamine. I hide it in the sage, so if I get searched by security, they won't go, why have you got pills hidden in a suspicious little orb? It's because I'm trying to stop. I have too many histamines. I need less histamines. And also, I love the. I do love the. I do love the ring that Dave made me, but it is. I'm terrified of accidentally ripping the stone off, so I don't really like taking it out. It is a marvelous little thing. I do adore it. Dave did such a smashing job on that ring, but it's just I'm so paranoid about breaking it. So I now use this instead. Find it weird that the ley lines are on before you at Gig in the Field? Yeah, because they know their place under my fucking boot hill. Hill? Hell. Heel. Heel. Boot heel. That's the word I was going for. The bitches. Don't know what I was doing with that. Because I'm a weirdo. People forget we actually, Sweet Chunks and the ley lines formed at the same time. We are contemporaries of each other. Of course, you'd by looking at us, you'd think that maybe the ley lines have been around longer because they're far more successful. But people think that are wankers. You know, yeah, sure, they got bigger stages and, you know, they got signed and music, like deals for musical instruments and such, but do they have a live stream like this, which has got 60 followers? No, they don't. No, they don't. But they do kind of technically win because, you know, they're still going and we're not. I mean, they've had almost as many members as Ferocious Dog, but as some of them came back, it sort of undoes the vote, really, the count, really. So, but yeah, it is still really, really funny. I just remember when they first came onto the scene with us, and everyone was like, "Who are these guys?" Like, it is funny when you look back at when people that we all know as like the big festival acts, when you were just starting out and you were like playing to no bastard at a tiny tea tent somewhere. And now look at us all 13 years later. Well, you know, to quote Wessex Girl in a different way, it is this is the way of music, where everyone eventually hates each other and gives up. It is funny. I'm still trying to work out what's the best way to play Sweet Chunks band Splitting Up, because people keep on coming up to us and seriously. I still need to work out what's causing these issues, because I basically need to turn off the stream and turn it back on again, and it starts working again, which is really helpful. Nothing changed. I was still just streaming. It'd been absolutely fine. Then suddenly decides, nah, which is great. I just decided that I needed to reset OBS, and now it's working fine. Internet's not changed. Nothing's different in the house at all. Just decided, fuck you, that's why. Right. What was the last thing I said on the stream to make sure what I've missed? What was the last thing I said that you could understand? Did I say that I managed to sew my waistcoat to itself? Did I tell you that bit? And I started swearing? Did you? Or was it earlier than that? if you guys let me know where you were. Missed you talking about the mix-up lyrics. Mix-up lyrics. That's just my brain exploding. Well, anyway. So it's one of those funny things. Yeah, like I said, the ley lines being a contemporary, because I remember those festivals where we first started out and having these mad fucking parties in little backstage tents. So they say backstage tents. They were just like the tea tent or watch it. They're just like at the end of hours, just the crew and the bands would go in there and get absolutely wasted. And I remember one hilarious moment where Steve from the Ley Lines, back when he was drinking, obviously, had a bottle of Kraken rum in one hand and Jack Daniels in the other, and was just yelling, "Crack Daniels!" and then pouring them both into your face. And I've never seen one person responsible for the destruction of one tent. And I don't mean he went around destroying everything. He destroyed everyone. Everyone basically was dead at the end of that. Yeah, it was really good fun. We just went from 0 to 60 whilst, and it was a long lingering memory of Crack Daniels and just Steve's happy little face providing booze for his mates. That's all it was. Whilst just yelling, "Crack Daniels!" And the other time, when that was the same festival, where one morning I was going out for my morning constitutional and found Hannah like sat against a fence with a bottle of beer in her hand, unconscious, just slumped over. And then I think one of us got her attention, just yelled, "Hannah, you all right, Hannah?" And she just went, "Huh? All right, cheers," and then just started drinking again. They used to be powerful. Now look at them with their families and their clean living. Bastards, all of them. I suppose that's why the band is still going. Actually, that makes it sound like we're all fucking alcoholics. But yeah, it's one of those funny things. Bands going around as long as you have, and you realise who your contemporaries are, and you know there's almost no correlation between our music. So I think we've played together when it's not been a festival once, because you know it's a strange combination. Even though, like, you know, they're literally the band that we grew up with as a band. They grew up with us at the same time when everyone else was massive, and we'd be around the back of the stage going, "Oh my god, they're letting us all play, fucking hell." So, Steve, why are they letting us do this, mate? Anyway, so yeah, let's have a little recap, because I think see if I've forgotten anything, then I think we should call it a night. So yeah, what am I meant to be working on? The album, which has been going fucking wonderfully well. Been doing more of the vocals. Got all of my vocals done with Dan, which was a wonderful little session. Got a load of vocals done with my backing singers. I've been enjoying it, which is lovely. Got a few more of those to do soon, which has been great. Went to 2000 Trees, saw Kneecap, was very impressed. Saw a lot of really tasty music, to be fair, and was very impressed. Loved every second of it, darling. I just didn't love the heat. That was bollocks. And I think we all drank our own body weight in water. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention when we were at Trees, one thing that was really fucking quite worrying was that the water supply to the campsites failed on I think the end of day one. It was fixed by Friday, and also they managed to keep water running in the arena and such, so you could get water. But it was sort of like, considering how fucking hot it was, to not have water is a sort of like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's quite scary. But yeah, then again, it went from one extreme to the other, because then I went to Newstead and I had fucking aircon, which was funny. And I of course sent a photograph to Lily, saying during Semantics set, and I just said the caption read, "Not the sexiest thing on stage isn't the sexiest thing at a concert isn't always on stage. Sometimes it's on the ceiling." And it was then above Sam's head. All you could see was the air conditioning unit. Which, to be fair, I mean, considering how much people were dancing, even with the aircon on, it became fucking warm in there. So can't imagine what that would have been like if we didn't have the aircon. It would have been horrific. Anyway, good. So yeah, so we did 2000 trees, did to How Do, had some smashing times for people. Nearly went skinny dipping in a lake, but then chickened out. Should have done. It would have been great. Next time I'm going to Newstead, I'm going to go visit the Abbey as well, because they have an Abbey. That used to be the home of Lord Byron. So, you know, get smashed, go see some Lord Byron, and then go jump in a lake that used to be a colliery. Culture. They say they don't have it in the north. Well, I beg to differ. They used to have it, and now it's all gone thanks to Thatcher. Although, actually, that reminded me, I did hear one of the best jokes at 2000 Trees. Annoyingly, it was from a band that weren't on stage because they deserved it. I can't wait to ever hear it if you ever hear it. So, Nasty Fishmonger, dear friends of Sweet Chunks, and have been for many, many years. Callum with us and camping with us, came up with the most brilliant thing to say at a show if you're in the north. Just basically when you're getting people to get into a mosh pit, and says, all right, guys, we're going to do the anti-Thatcher, because what I want you to do is open this pit up, which is so fucking dumb. But yeah, I want to see them use that live, because it's going to be incredible. I want to see them do it in fucking Barnsley or something. That'd be amazing. But yeah, so yeah, Hardo. And what am I actually working on? The British Royal Book Club. I've been reading the very best of Arthur C. Clarke from the 1930s to the 1960s, which has been a charming little volume of music. I've been listening to Adam Buxton's audiobook Ramble Book, which was great. I'm now listening to the 13 Minutes to the Moon from the Beeb, when they're talking about the space shuttle, which has been absolutely fabulous. I've been repairing the bikes, because that seems to be a never-ending fucking job. Well, to be fair, the amount that I use my bike, it's not surprising that they're a bit fucked. I mean, this is the second music festival I've cycled to, so yeah, I guess I am a bit fucking mental. What else has been happening, you glorious, lovely people? Yeah, that's about it. I think we come towards the end of the stream. So, my friends, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'm going to read through my bits and pieces, and then what we shall do is I shall leave the stream on for a little bit longer, finish a bit more of this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, and then come and watch us on Twitch, because it's actually more weird stuff, because at the end of this stream, where it ends for you, in our stream in the distant past, or the future, who knows, we will be talking bollocks without any kind of structure, even more weird than we've got it now, so we'll go from there. But before I go, let's do a bit of housekeeping. The Kickstarter is still open if you want to donate to the album. Kickstarter.com/projects Aubrey, Blakeledge, Woodland Gothic. If you go to Kickstarter and search Woodland Gothic, you can find it there. There are still late pledges if you want to. If you want to help me make the album. I've got gig listings on Band in Town, as well as on aubreyblakeledge.com, Awkward Strawberry Cabaret, ticketsource.co.uk/Awkward Strawberry if you want to see some music from around the underground music scene in Southampton at the Hobbit. Do check it out and come and join us. This Fizzy Brain stream is back every Tuesday at 9 p.m, unless I'm feeling very, very tired. And you can find me on most social media by searching Aubrey Blakeledge on Twitch, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I don't use Twitter, even though I'm still technically there. Fuck it, with a giant, great big stick in the arse. So yeah, Bandcamp, you can search Aubrey Blakeledge, and soon I'll be starting to put the pre-orders available for the album. Once the album is done and I've got the artwork, once the album is fully recorded and then being produced, I'm going to set up the... Right. Back again. I'm getting really frustrated with this now, because if there was something logical that was going wrong that I could check on and sort out, that would be great. but there isn't. It just suddenly decides, you know what, I'm not working anymore. Goes down to 1 frame a minute, and you can't hear anything as well, even though nothing discernibly is happening. So let's do the credits, and then if the stream continues to work after that, we'll continue talking bollocks. I'll be chatting to the chat for a bit longer, and then bedtime for everyone. So thank you very much for joining me for the live stream, which will continue. If you're watching this on if you're watching this on YouTube or through Patreon, thank you very much. I will be back, and come and join us in the live stream every Tuesday if it doesn't fuck up again that much. My name is Aubrey Blakeledge. If you have a drink in your hand, raise it up and put it into your face, and please rise for the national anthem. Bye. My glorious paid patrons: Alan Fluker, Alison Piercy, Andrew Harrison, Chris, Claire, Danny, Dave, Dennis, Edward, Jen, Jules, Karen, Sage, apologies for not changing, I don't know why, Kingsford, Michael, Murray, Puzzle, Rachel, Radish, Rich, Rosemary, Ruth, Samantha, Sarah, Sharon, Smoke, Toby, Wessex, Ziggy, and all you marvellous people that are following on free, on Patreon, and on Twitch. Da-da.